Okay, so for I think it's been a month now. So for today's class, we just want to combine everything that you've done. Okay, so for a month ago, we started with the front end. Okay, so front end, we use HTML, we use CSS. Okay, and the database, and we use MySQL. Okay, and the backend. Okay, so the backend we use Python. All right. So what's this Django that we are talking about? Okay. So all these three that we've talked about. Okay. Python has a framework. Okay. So there's a framework. Okay. And this framework is in Python. Okay. And once you have this framework, you can combine all these three. So you can combine backend, that's the Python that you've learned, the basics. Can combine the database, MySQL, can combine HTML, CSS to make any website of your choice. So this popular website that use Django. Okay, so let's just Google this and see some of the popular websites that use Django and popular. So companies that use Django. Okay. All right. So I'm sharing the screen. Okay, so all these companies use Django. Okay, so Instagram, National Geographic, Pinterest, Mozilla. So let's go to Instagram and see what they have on their website. Okay, so Instagram.com. Go to Pinterest. Okay, all right. So this was done with Django. Okay, so this is the meaning. So based on what you've talked about, you've got to know that all these things that we see here are HTML and CSS. Okay. And at the back end, that means if I click on this button, the data that's going to fetch from the database. So supposing, let's say the Instagram, they use MySQL. Okay. If they use MySQL, it's the same thing that you're going to do. So the Python or what the backend that you've learned will pick the data from the database and it will bring to the user. Okay. So that's what we are going to do. So we build our own website with Django. Okay. So someone was, what is a framework? Framework, what is that? Okay. So when you take Python, Python on its own cannot be a web application or cannot be a website. Okay. You cannot build a website solely on Python. Okay. Because we said for the views that shows to the user. Okay. So the view, if I talk about the view, I mean the things that you see when you go on the website, the designs, they are in HTML and CSS. That's for the front end. Okay. And for that's HTML and CSS. My network. Hello. Okay. So and please, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. All right. So with the Python, we said the Python, you cannot build a website solely with Python. The database cannot stand on its own. Okay. The HTML too cannot stand on its own. The HTML, CSS, okay, because something static website. So you can have a static website and you can have dynamic website. Okay. Static means if I open the website, the content, and let's say if James open a website, the same website, the content that shows for James and myself will be the same. Okay. But for the dynamic, it means it changes. So what I will see will be different from what James sees. Okay. So That's what we call a dynamic website. So to build a dynamic website, you need the backend, you need a database, and you need front end. That's the HTML, CSS. But you can build a website, the HTML, CSS for static website. Okay. So the framework in Python or framework in general is a combination of functions. Okay. We've talked about functions in backend the last time, the last month. So they are just a combination of modules or functions that come together to form a package, okay, or to form what should I say, a unit element that will make development easier for developers. Okay, so it's like since we cannot build Python website with Python solely, and you cannot do that with MySQL or HTML and CSS, why don't we just bind them or build a layer? So like this, okay, a framework is on top, at the top here, and beneath the framework would have, let's say, would have MySQL, okay, we have HTML, so CSS, we have Python at the back end. Okay, so they'll bring all these three together, then they'll package it to form a unit called a framework. Okay, so in Python, the unit that is used to develop websites is what we call the Django. When you look at other programming languages, if you look at JavaScript, okay, so let's look at JavaScript. So for JavaScript too, it's the same thing. When you talk about, let's say, React, okay, for React too, they have a number of packages that they put together to form the React. But the basic language that is being used is JavaScript. When you talk about AngularJS, we have a number of them. Okay, so it means once you understand JavaScript, getting React will be very easy because they built the React based on the JavaScript. It's the same thing for Django. If you understand what we did the last time, that's the Python, okay? If you understood it really well, you'll get to know that the framework that you are going to learn, it will be very simple for you. Very simple. Okay. Now, let's look into some of the things. How do you start Django on your website? So how to start, so how to start Django, okay, or how to install Django. All right, so with the Python, okay, per our previous class, you got to know that you can install Python by going to python.org, okay. So once you go there, you would install it. You can just click on the file, you download the file on your machine and install. But the installation of Python, we got to know that we call something, we take add to path. Okay, if you could remember, I would explain this line very well. Okay, we take this line and we install Python, and we said to make sure whether you have Python on your machine, what you need to do is just to open your command prompt, okay, the CMD. Once you open you open your CMD, if you're on Windows, you just type Python space dash version, okay. But if you're on Mac, you type Python 3, okay. I'm on Mac, so that's why I type Python 3 dash version. And once I get Python, the version of the Python, it means I have Python installed. So if you're on your Windows machine, you can just test it. You can just type Python space version, okay, and you get it. If you get unknown command, that means you've not installed it. If you've installed it, it means you've not added it to path. This is the meaning of the path. I'm come to explain this line. This is the meaning. Okay. So with the programming language, you got to know that, okay, so for me to understand, let's say, a Spanish language, I need to learn Spanish language. So it's the same thing for computers. Okay. So for computer to understand a language like Python, it needs to learn it. Okay. And for a computer, you don't need to train a system for it to learn a language. You can just install the language on the machine and the system will understand the language. So that's why we are installing Python on the machine. Okay. So it means if you want your machine to understand or work with React applications, you need to install React packages and all. Okay, so we take the R to part because you see where I am right now, okay, currently. If I open command prompt, okay, or if you're on Windows and you open command prompt, you get to know that where you installed Python, it will be installed in the folder, okay? So once installing, they will ask you of where to install Python. So to install into a particular folder. So let's say, let me just create a file. Okay, so I'll just create a folder, okay, as a test. So let's say when I installed the Python, this was the folder that was given to me, okay. You cannot see, okay. So let's say this was the folder that was given to me when I installed the Python, okay. So to make the command prompt, so I've opened command prompt like this. So to make the machine, if I want to use Python, if I open command prompt like this, the parent root, okay, it says it's inside which are the folder, okay. But Python wasn't installed in this folder or in this particular folder. So if you open command prompt on your machine, if you're on Windows, sometimes when you open command prompt, the main root will be system32, but that's not where you installed Python. Okay, so it means if you are in system32 and you type Python, the command prompt shouldn't see that there's Python installed in the machine. Okay. So it means if I want to use Python, I need to navigate to the folder. So this is the folder. Okay. So I can just go inside the folder. So I can just go inside the folder. So I can just go inside the Python folder. It's inside documents. Okay. Um, Forget about these commands, but I'm just trying to show you. Okay. Okay. So I can just go inside the folder. So now I'm inside the Python folder. Okay. So it means if I type Python commands, the command prompt, this one should see it. Okay. But if I can either do this to work with Python, or if during the installation, if I click on add to path, okay, it means no matter the folder or no matter my current folder, wherever I am, when I type Python, the system should see it. Okay. So that's why we take add to path. So it's very, very relevant, important when doing the installation. But you can add it manually. Okay. On a Windows machine, what you need to do is just go to your machine, you go to system variables, you add the path to it, and wherever you are, when you type Python, it will start working for you. Okay. So that's just the an overview of why we take the add to path. We take it for the system to know that there's Python installed on the machine, no matter our working directory. Okay. So no matter where we are on the machine, when I type Python, the machine will know, oh, yes, I understand Python. Okay. So that's why we take the Python add to path. Now, the next thing, let me just, so we said the Django, so that's it. So we've talked about Python, talked about Django. We know these two. All right. So for you to install Django, okay, you need Python. That's what we've talked about. You need Python to install Django because Django is just built on Python. Now, to install Django or to install any package or framework, okay, on a programming language, you need what you call a packaging manager. So for Python, for instance, you need to install what you call PIP. Okay. So you can install PIP. So once you install PIP, you can install Django. So the PIP is on top of Python. Okay. So it's like this. So the mother is just the Python. Inside the Python, we have the PIP. And under the PIP, you can have your frameworks or packages. Okay. So to have your packages, you need the PIP installed on the machine also. Okay. And the PIP also would work when you have Python on the machine. All right. So to do this or to make sure whether you have PIP on the machine, what you need to do is just to type pip space dash version. Okay. So as you can see, I don't have pip installed. So command not found. Okay. So I don't have pip installed. So let's install pip on our machine. So to do that, we just go to this website, https, okay, /pip dot pipe .io.en latest insert installation. Okay, so you can install pip by going to this website, or you can just open our browser. Okay, so all these websites, so you can just open our browser and just type download or install pip. Okay, so install pip. So we have, this is the documentation. You can just click on the first link. Okay, so if you're on Windows, you just click on the Windows. Then you can use this one to install the pip. Okay, if you're on Mac, you can just type this to install pip. Right. If you want to download the zip files to install too, you can just do this to install. All right, so with the installation process of the pip, we'll go through in our next class. That's tomorrow. But I just want you to have the overview. Okay, even after today, if you can just install it, you should, so that tomorrow when we are going over, it will be very simple for you. Or if you have any issues, you can share with us. Now, you've got to know that we can install pip using this website. Now, let's go to the basic idea of websites, or how the Django works. How the Django works, or the it's like the not the framework, but the skeleton of Django. Okay. For any website, for any website, okay, they are built on what we call MVT. The MVT is what? Model, okay, view, template. They are built on these three things. Okay. Now, someone will say, what is a model? So these three, okay, what you've described here, let me just see whether I can circle it. Okay, so let me use this. Okay, so you can see these three, the model view template is just the same as this. Okay, they are synonymous. Okay, so the model, okay, is the data that you present, or the data from the database. Okay, so any data from the database is what we call the model. Okay, from database is the model. Then you look at the view. Okay, so let me go on Instagram and let's see how Instagram works. Okay, so um, okay, this is a website, Instagram. All right. So this Instagram.com. Now, this please can you see the URL? Okay. This is what we call the index URL. So it's like this. So let's say the index.html or something. So this is the main domain, okay? This is the main site. It's like the parent. And the child, the first child that comes after it is what we call the path, okay, or the child URL. So it means when I go on the Instagram.com, it will open a mother folder for me. And inside the mother folder, there's a file called index.html. Okay. And I was able to get this view on my web page based on what was defined in the view. So this, for instance, let me just go here. So what you see here, so we've talked about the model. So now we are talking about the view. So the view is, it handles requests. Okay, so for instance, if I say, let me just open Instagram again. Okay, if I say, okay, let me just go to sign up. Okay, so sign up means it should open account page, account folder, and inside account, there's a file called, it should handle this email sign up view. Okay, so it means if anyone opens this one, the request should just show the user what I'm seeing here. Okay, so the views is actually a request handler. Okay, so whatever the user is requesting for, just give him the relevant page that you want. That's it. Okay, so it means if I copy this URL, okay, and I paste it in this browser, if I just paste it, let me just copy this URL. Okay, let me just paste it. If I click on enter, it will open the sign up page for me. Okay, if I type instagram.com, it will open the login page for me. So that's what Instagram they've done in their views. Okay, so in their views they've done that if anyone enters instagram.com, open this page for him. If someone enters this URL, open that page for him. So that's what we are talking about. So that's the view. So the view will handle the user request. How will you know that this is the request the user wants? Okay, so websites or web applications are able to know user requests based on URLs that the user is requesting for. So for instance, let me go to google.com. Okay. So I've entered google.com. Okay. So if I enter google.com, the page that came, Google has designed it that anytime anyone enters google.com, you should just open this HTML page for that person. Okay. So if I type Ghana city, okay. If I type Ghana city, for instance, okay, the search results that comes up, the search results that you see, okay, these search results, how did Google got to know that, okay, this is the results I want? They did it based on the URL. So what I entered, when I pressed the enter, it gave Google this request. So they said, I'm searching for something. This can you see? And they said, okay, the query, this is what I entered. I entered Ghana cities. And this one, they are just encrypting. It could be your location. They are just, it depends on what they want to do. Okay. So that's for the views. So the views will handle user requests, and based on what they've designed in their system, it can give you a response. So for instance, most of the times, Instagram, they are able to hack people's password and usernames. So I don't know. So this is what they do. So they will give you some URL, okay, they will say click on it. If you click on it, how they've defined in their system, that's what the system will behave. Okay. So if you click on, they say, okay, get the persons. Since you click on it, they can get your permission to do a lot of stuff. Okay. So if you click on, they say, okay, go to his password repository, get me his password, and push to this database. So users are able, or websites or web applications are able to handle users' requests based or no users' requests based on the URL that they click on it. Okay, so that's for the view. Now, let's talk about the next thing. Okay, so we said the model is anonymous to the database, the templates, the view is just like the backend, and the template. Okay, so the template is just HTML, CSS. So whatever you see on the website, any design that you see on the website is what we call the template. All right. Now, let's go into the next thing. We call something URLs. Okay, so what I've already talked about. So the URLs will determine what the website will give to the user. Okay, and that one is defined by the developer. Okay, so you can design your website and you say, okay, you can call your website, let's say kwaku.com. Okay, if you say kwaku.com, then you can say login. Okay, it means login, but you can define in your code that if you click, even if you click on this your name, if you enter this URL, it should just sign you up. It's based on the developer. So the names depends on you. So this is what we call the URL. Now, with the packages, okay, or the package that we have talked about the PIP and others. All right, so let's look at another thing. With the data scientists, okay, we call something Panda. Okay, so there's a package called Panda. And also there's a package called NumPy. Okay. Okay, so these two packages are very important if you want to do data analysis, data science, and all. But what you are going to do, you wouldn't use Panda, you wouldn't use NumPy. But based on what you've learned today, you can use that to install the Panda, you can use that to install the NumPy, you can start doing some basic stuff with it. Okay, so that's just for your information. Now, per our previous class, we got to know we had something in Python called a virtual environment. So when we install the PyCharm, okay. So when we install the PyCharm, so I've opened the PyCharm, and if I click on the project or I open a project, we have virtual environment here. Okay, so we have the virtual environment. So this one, that's the virtual environment. Now, the Django that we start the main thing tomorrow. Okay, we'll make use of the virtual environment. Now let's understand the virtual environment very well. Okay. Supposing a company has given me, let's say a company like Facebook, okay, has given me a contract to build their website for them. Okay. And also another company, Instagram, okay, has also given me a project, okay, to build a website for them. The packages that Facebook will use, let's say Facebook will use NumPy, okay, that's assuming. They will use a number of them and then a number of packages. But what Instagram will use will be different from Facebook's own, okay. So let's say Instagram will use Panda, they use other packages. Facebook will use NumPy, they use other packages. Now we make use of virtual environment to create a container, or it's like you are creating a Python environment on its own, a different environment on its own, because the Python that I've installed on my machine is just one. Okay, so if because of Facebook I install NumPy, and a different company has come. I install Panda. It makes management of my packages cumbersome. Okay, so why? Hello, yeah, sorry, so it was the network. Okay, so why don't I just create a virtual environment for Facebook? It's like one Python, even though I have a bigger Python, okay, but I would have, let's say, another Python for Facebook and another Python for Instagram, okay, and this one will be for Facebook, okay. And inside this virtual environment, I can just install their packages for them. In that case, the mother Python or the main Python on my machine wouldn't have any package or any irrelevant package that I wouldn't use, but I don't want. So that's the use of the virtual environment. So tomorrow, what we do is, or in our next class, what we do is to install PIP. So tomorrow we install PIP, okay. We install Django. We would install um, virtual environment. So we'll create virtual environment. So we'll create just one virtual environment to start with our class. We'll build any website of our choice. Okay, so once we have these three in place, we can build or we can do anything with it. Okay, so that's the basis for today. For your assignment for today, what you need to do is just go and try whether you can install Python. Sorry, you can install PIP. We already have Python. And install PIP, you can also install Django. And just try to see whether you can create your own virtual environment. So tomorrow, when you come, we just combine everything that we've done. So that's the model, the view, the templates, the URLs to build our first homepage website. Okay. And with this website, what we try to do is we try to host it for others to see. Now, those who joined the front-end developers, okay, the pages that we built, we will use them. Okay, so if you've not started working on front-end pages, please start building a login page, sign up page, any website you want to do, just start working on the front end. What we do is we just import straight into our Django project. We just do some small thing and we combine everything together. Okay. So that's that for today. If you have any question,